What if I told you that you have the ability to dream anything you want to dream, and if you just keep seeing it and feeling it for 3 days, then it would become your reality? How big would you dream? How much of your imagination would you pour into it? You'd probably dream something so big it would make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, right? Because if not, you'd just be cheating yourself. What if I told you the same thing were true, but it would take 3 weeks? What if I said 3 months? What if I said 3 years? Does the time frame even matter anymore once you know that you have the ability to do it? Well, I'm here to tell you that you do have that ability. It's just a matter of whether or not you've realized it yet. Welcome back to our Law of Attraction series, episode 5. In our previous lesson, we talked about energy, frequency, and vibration. That everything is energy, you and I are energy, and when we feel something, when we see something, focus on something, it creates a vibration. And that vibrational field, if we keep charging it, keep seeing it, and keep reinforcing it, it becomes a part of our unique frequency. And frequency creates reality. Frequency is the cue that consciousness takes to know which frame appears next in the movie strip of your life. And you're always manifesting your reality based on the frequency you're emitting. In lesson 2, we talked about the probability field of your life. Essentially that all possible configurations of your life exist in the infinite field of consciousness already, in this probability field. And again, you are selecting which timeline appears next in your movie scene based on the frequency you emit. So I've laid a very conceptual framework for this stuff so far in the series, but I'd like to offer us a new way of thinking about this probability field. And that is to think about it actually as a field of dreams. Every possible dream that consciousness could dream, all existing inside of this non-local, non-physical field. And so essentially, the idea here is that it works like a lucid dream. If any of you have had experience doing lucid dreaming, you know that in order to manipulate your surroundings and manifest something, all you have to do is feel it, see it in your mind's eye, and then it appears. So people are accustomed to saying that dreams aren't real and that this reality is real. But of course, that's just the way that the mind tries to dissect reality. There is no such thing as real or not real. As we talked about in the last lesson, there's just a spectrum of density, the density of light. So the dream world is a much, much higher vibrational density, a much lower density. So things happen fast. We can manifest our surroundings within seconds. This reality is a much denser, much slower vibrational level, so things take a lot longer. But the same rules still apply as in a dream. So if I want to imagine myself in a comfortable office with my feet up, all I have to do is sit and think about it, see it for 1 or 2 seconds, and just like that, I can be in a comfortable office with my feet up. In a lucid dream, you can manifest things that quickly. But if you are familiar with lucid dreaming, you know that you have to first cultivate the ability to choose a desire. You have to actually desire being in a comfortable office with your feet up. It's not enough to just say it out loud. And once you're good at this, then you can combine that with imagination and just imagine yourself in a comfortable office, and it happens. So although our reality here is at a much, much denser level than a lucid dream is, the same rules still apply. This is exactly how it works. The vehicle that we use to navigate through the field of dreams is our imagination. Imagination is one of the most powerful divine abilities we have as co-creators of the Absolute. It is something that allows us to literally see things that don't exist yet and then make them a reality. That's an incredible power to have. But it's not enough to just have imagination. You have to have inspiration to go with it. If imagination is the vehicle, inspiration is the fuel for the vehicle. So you can't just imagine something that doesn't resonate with you because there's no juice to it. The car isn't moving, right? The wheels aren't turning yet. But when you imagine something and it starts resonating, it excites you, then we have a vehicle that can travel and can move and can locate different dreams and start to condense them and start to see them and start to create more of it and finally pull it into your frequency. And that is what is key. You have to pull the dream, see it enough, vibrate with it enough that you pull it into your frequency. Imagination is the only way we can do this. And we've been told our whole lives that it's just for children. And that actually makes perfect sense because children haven't learned limitations yet. Children don't think in terms of limitation yet. And when we get older, we become adults, we start to lose that childlike innocence of knowing that we're great, we can imagine anything we want. And we start to doubt ourselves. Lack mentality, victimization comes in. That anything we see created in the world, whether it's art, movies, music, technology, all of it had to be imagined by someone first and then created. So everything we see comes out of imagination, and so can your life, and so can who you are. But you need to have that vehicle. And this is why we have to understand that our frequency, which again is what creates reality, is the most valuable thing that we have. It's more valuable than gold. And when we cultivate a frequency that we want, a frequency of confidence, of power, of love, of happiness, of peace, of security, of clarity, authenticity, we cultivate this positive frequency, we cannot allow negative people or negative circumstances to suck out our energy like that, because they don't have to. We don't have to give them some of our energy and then lower our frequency. We can choose to see only what we want to see. And if something doesn't resonate with us, we just move along as a bypasser. You don't have to get engaged with it, and surely not even resisting it, because that's also assigning it significance, even more so than identifying with it. So that's charging it. So we just say, no thank you, that's not for me. No thank you, that's not for me. That's the phrase. Repeat it in your mind every time you hear a thought, every time a situation happens that causes doubt to spring up. No thank you, that's not for me. And then we start to choose our frequency. We start to select and take charge over what comes into our frequency. Because if you don't choose your frequency, others will choose it for you. Life will choose it for you. And this is how people don't have the ability to create a happy life for themselves, because they don't know who they are yet. They don't have clarity on who they are yet. And so they allow anyone else's opinions to come into their frequency field. And now you know that you have the power not to do this. You have the ability to be in the driver's seat of your energy field, and you can value it above all else. And this is when we start to really create ourselves, because life is not about finding ourselves, it's about creating ourselves. And so when we choose to see only what resonates, that's how we do it. But this brings a sense of clarity. When we have a dream that resonates, that brings joy, makes us feel alive. When we know who we are, we become authentic. And authenticity is power. So when you don't know who you are, when you aren't following your passion, when you're not following and only seeing what resonates with you, then you don't have that clarity and you don't know who you are. And this is where the ego comes in. The substitute self thrives in the absence of joy, in the absence of clarity, because the ego doesn't know what it is. So it says, oh, you don't know who you are? I'll take charge, I'll show you who you are. And then it runs around everywhere, identifying with everything, attaching to everything, becoming very vulnerable because it doesn't have an identity, but you do. And so the substitute self makes you a wanderer. You don't have a home. You don't know what your most authentic self looks like. But it's the simplest thing. It's the easiest thing, is to see what resonates. We all know what resonates with us, what excites us, what inspires us, what makes us happy, what makes us feel good. And so you just follow the breadcrumb trail. Because once you do that, you become impenetrable, you become invincible to the ego. When you know who you are and you're in love and you're following your joy and your passion, the substitute mind has no more pulling power over you, because all it can do is suggest things to you. It has no actual power over you. It can just say, why don't you identify with this thought? Why don't you attach to this thought? And you can just say, no, thank you, that's not for me. And it begins to dissolve it over time. And this is why I don't understand why so many spiritual circles tend to sort of poo-poo on the law of attraction as though it were something that was out of ego. Because spirituality is supposed to be only about getting rid of desires and attachments, and that's unspiritual to have a desire. What's unspiritual is to have attachment. Desire is an expression of the Almighty. Desire is a pure expression and experience. And consciousness wants to experience it. That's why we have desires. But the desire has to be pure. When it's contaminated with self-interest, when it's contaminated with misidentity, then you become selfish and your desires become attachments. But the most spiritual thing you can do is follow your joy, follow your passion, become the happiest version of yourself, become the most authentic version of yourself. Because this is when you help the world. You make the world a better place when you're happy. You give when you're happy. If you don't know any of those things, if you don't know yourself as those things, then you become a selfish person. So clarity is everything. And having dreams that resonate with us gives us that sense of clarity. I know who I am in this moment. I know what makes me come alive, what makes me happy. And it might change every year. That's okay. Just be true to who you are in this moment always. Forget past ideas about yourself. Don't compare yourself to who you were. You are who you are right now. And who you were 10, 20 years ago is probably unrecognizable. So you can't go back anyways. You have to be authentic. The 1989 movie, Field of Dreams, stars Kevin Costner, who plays a farmer with a crop field. And as we know, he starts to hear a whisper that says, if you build it, they will come. So he keeps hearing this whisper of the universe. And eventually, he looks into his corn maze and he sees a baseball field in his mind's eye. And this dream resonates with him enough to where he goes out and starts to knock down his cornfield one by one and draw the perimeters out and make this baseball diamond. And his circumstances are not dictating that to him. His circumstances would seem to indicate that this is ridiculous. There's no reason to have a baseball field out here. But he chooses not to see that, and he chooses to keep seeing what's resonating with him. And as we know, the ghosts of baseball past, of legends like Babe Ruth and Hank Aaron and Lou Gehrig, they come to play baseball on his field, and he can see them and talk to them. So this movie has law of attraction written all over it. If you build it in here, the universe will come and hand it to you. When you're in love, you give the universe no other option, because this is your greatest ability. This is your most natural, effortless ability. Choosing what resonates is effortless. There's no sweat involved. There's no gritting of teeth involved. You do it all the time. And now you're just becoming aware of it. You're just becoming conscious of it. And you've been doing this since you were born. You are a manifestation powerhouse. You are perfect at this already. You have no ability to even learn something about this or get better at it. So own that power that you have, own that ability that you have, and start to see only what you prefer to see. Start to manifest only what you want to manifest. You absolutely can be whoever you want to be. Whoever you want to be in your heart is who you already are. Your mind has been charged with ego thought patterns, with doubt thought patterns, victimization thought patterns. And so you've energized those thoughts for many years. But now you're seeing the clearest vision of who you want to be. And any person, any thought, any comment, any experience, any situation that arises in your experience that does not reinforce who you see, who you know yourself to be in here, you say, no thank you, that's not for me. Again, we don't resist. We just become neutral. And this will dissolve those thought patterns. This will start to burn up all of the things that are not you, because they aren't resonating with you. And you always know what resonates with you and what does not. It's the easiest thing to know. And so everything is starting to sort of wash back into silence, into the great stillness inside of your being that is clear now, that is authentic and powerful and resonating now. And everything just sort of dissolves under the light of this authenticity and clarity that you have. And it all happens from seeing who you know yourself to be in the field of dreams. And once it's a part of your frequency, it starts to become your reality. So now you know that you are the field of dreams itself. It's existing inside of consciousness, which is what you are. If you were to close your eyes and imagine a sunset right now, and we dissect your brain open, are we going to see a sunset in your brain? No, because the answer is there is no location to the sunset you're seeing, because it's happening inside of the field of dreams, which is inside of you. So now that you know that you are that, you're not going to let imagination be stifled or inspiration be sucked away by constantly identifying with negative thoughts and negative experiences. You're going to own your power and say this phrase every single time that a negative thing arises in your experience. No, thank you, that's not for me. Get good at saying that. And pretty soon you won't even have to say it because they'll stop arising. You'll just stop seeing them. Because what you see out there is a reflection of what's in here. It's a reflection of who you are. We don't even know what's out there. You don't actually know why that person did that thing or said that negative comment. You don't actually know why. You don't know why this situation is arising the way that it is. It's all out of your control. So trust this above all. Trust your vibration above anything else. And pay no attention to things that start to doubt it, that start to attack it. Once you do this, you become powerful and you become happy, you become alive, and then you can make the world a better place. Only when you're happy. So you are capable, you are powerful, you are the field of dreams itself. So I say, it's time to start dreaming.